The Israel-Hamas hostage exchange is now set to enter the second phase. The second exchange of the deal is set to take place on Saturday afternoon, when Hamas is expected to release 4 women, both soldiers and civilians. A Hamas official said that it will provide Israel with the names of hostages today. Hamas has also been expected to provide Israel with details on the status of the 30 remaining hostages due to be freed in the first stage of the deal. It is required to provide long-sought specifics on which hostages were alive. As per reports, Hamas is expected to free hostage Arbel Yehud in Saturday's exchange. She is one of the 7 female hostages remaining from the original list of 33 to be released in the first phase. For each of the female soldiers, Israel will release 50 Palestinian prisoners, 30 of them convicted terrorists who are serving life sentences. Early Monday, Israel released 30 prisoners for each of the 3 civilian female hostages Hamas set free the previous afternoon. Meanwhile, the Middle East crisis continues with recent developments on Lebanon and Yemen. Israel has asked for the US for an additional 30 days to carry out the withdrawal of its troops from southern Lebanon. Under the terms of the ceasefire, the IDF is required to cede all of its positions by January the 26th. On the other hand, Trump has redesignated Houthis as a foreign terrorist organization. Thank you for joining us on this. For more on discussion on this topic, we are joined by Professor Madhav Nalaput, editorial director of the Sunday Guardian. Professor Nalaput, how are these negotiations moving? What makes this hostage release different from the first?
Well, it's very different because Donald Trump is now the president of the United States and not Joe Biden. And that makes a very significant difference because Trump has frankly vowed to basically bring hell to that particular region unless the Israeli hostages are released. I think that's probably one reason why you're seeing 4 more released. But the fact is, if I recall, it's about 30 or 33 hostages were to be released in phase 1. And I'm not sure Israel is going to basically agree to phase 2 unless all the terms of phase 1 are agreed. And those terms include the release of many more hostages that are still in the custody of Hamas. You can't be fast on one side and slow on the other. So Hamas has got to reciprocate where Israel is concerned. Otherwise, I think Israel would be justified in asking for an extension until Hamas releases the hostages it has promised to release in the first phase of operations. But so far, I'm sorry to say, apart from 3, none have been released. That's less than a tenth of the hostages that were seized on October 7, 2023. I think about 150 or so were seized. Less than a tenth of that. I mean, we don't know how many are surviving and how many are still, how many are still there. But this is the point that Hamas has got to keep to its side of the deal. It's got to release the specified number of hostages. And unless it does so, well, you're not going to see Israel make a gesture in advance of Hamas making a gesture. And don't forget that when the 3 Israeli hostages were released, Israel almost immediately released the Palestinian
Professor
hostages.
Nalaput, I wanted just to ask you a follow-up question. What are the challenges Israel faces in balancing exchanging hostages for convicted terrorists?
Look, it's a difficult choice. The government of India made that kind of a choice in the Kandahar hijack. And frankly, some of them released went on to commit terror acts, which is why Israel is very clear. It wants to destroy the military wing of Hamas and Hezbollah before there is anything that can resemble peace in the region. So long as Hamas and Hezbollah or other forces absolutely committed to the destruction of the Jewish state and indeed to the Jewish people, so long as they are still able to function, there's always a danger of a repeat of October 7. And that, I think, is something which any Israeli government will want to avoid. So the point is, on the part of Hamas and Hezbollah, it has got to be in such a situation that its military wing is completely disbanded and it no longer poses a security threat to Israel.
Professor Nalaput, also moving on to Hezbollah, as you spoke about, what are the implications of Israel asking for an extra 30 days to stay in Lebanese territory and denying to withdraw their troops?
Well, as I said, the point is that Israel wants its hostages back. And secondly, it will want absolute ironclad guarantees from the Lebanese forces who are supposed to replace the Israeli forces, that they will not allow any smuggling of weapons and other material to Hezbollah. The fact is, Hezbollah has been nourished by the route from Syria. That route has been closed. But the reality of the situation is that within the Lebanese forces, unfortunately, Hezbollah has infiltrated several elements, and these are a risk to Israeli security so long as Hezbollah is committed to the destruction of the state of Israel. So the fundamental point is, how do you basically come to an agreement with an entity that is committed to your destruction, unless it ceases to be committed to your destruction? That is the question.
And talking about the Houthis from Yemen, they are now officially being labelled a terrorist organisation by the USA. What are the implications of this? Professor Nalaput.
Sorry. Yeah, the implications are very clear. The implications are that whatever Israel does against them is legal and legitimate because acting against a terrorist organization. And secondly, the United States is now opening the door to its own participation in that particular conflict. I don't think that's going to happen in a hurry. Trump doesn't want to get into any more conflicts than he can avoid. But I do believe that it essentially is a green light for Israel to take action against the Houthis. So I think the Houthis also would be well advised to give up this effort to basically destroy the Jewish state. And I think if they do that and they show good faith in doing that, then yes, you are going to get peace in Yemen. And frankly, that part of Yemen controlled by the Houthis does need peace. The people are suffering, the people are in poverty, and unlike in Gaza, where thanks to UNRWA, the people were very well supplied, much more so, frankly, than in the West Bank, which was free of Hamas. So from that point of view, the reality is that it takes two hands to clap. It takes two to tango. And the good faith has to be demonstrated by Lebanon very, very clearly and within Palestine that they accept the right of the state of Israel to exist and the right of the Jewish people to exist within the current borders. And I think that would be a precondition for any lasting peace in the region.
Thank you very much for joining us, Professor Madhav Nalaput.